Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is White Rice Wednesday, which means it's time for my Survivor recap. So to recap on tonight's episode, Jeannie, Green's coming back from Tribal Council, and Jeannie, went for instincts, and Jeannie was then looking for an advantage, and she found an advantage, and normally that'd be good. But she runs and tells Ricard and Shan, "Hey, I found the Beware advantage." I'm like, are these fucking people, insane? The one rule of Survivor, do not tell people you found an idol or an advantage. So, this brings up an interesting thing, because now Shan and Ricard know, and Shan was able to convince Jeannie to, just basically not open it and just leave it there. Well, Shan and Ricard open it. Well, Shan is technically the one that opens it. So, this brings up something that I am curious about. Jeannie is the one that found the advantage. So, does it belong to Jeannie? Or does it belong to Shan? Because Shan is the one who opened the advantage. You know what I mean? So, Ricard is thinking about getting rid of Shan, and if Jeannie was playing smart, she would definitely try to break up that duo. On the Blue Tribe, we see that Sydney is catching fish and, having a good time. There's really not that much going on the Blue Tribe. They're sitting pretty right now. Danny and Deshawn talk to Nasir about throwing a challenge, and Nasir doesn't want to throw a challenge. And I'm like, at this point, why would Blue want to throw a challenge? If the merge is coming, they've got the numbers going in, so I would think you'd want to keep that. Yellow, Evie wants Xander to think that he's on top and that he is their number one. And Tiffany and Liana, I give them so much credit for this, because they actually decided to go into Xander's bag to see what exactly he has. They find that he has the idol, which they kind of already knew, and they find out that he has an extra vote. And Liana says, with this information, they could use this to get Xander out. And then Xander gets caught in a lie. He tries to make it look like he's gaining trust of Tiffany by saying that he found an idol and that he just found this idol this morning. Well, Tiffany remembers that Xander already used one of the phrases at the immunity challenge, so she's called him out on it. So now Xander's caught in a lie, so now he has to figure out, how do you recover from this? So the immunity challenge, something very interesting happens. We find out that Nasir found the Blue Tribe's immunity idol, and I'm so surprised that we didn't see that. So kudos to editing on their part. So now all three of the idols now have power. So for the immunity challenge, they're playing for a tarp, and they have to go up and over this net, and then they have to untangle these knots to get a key, and the key releases these balls, and the balls they have to put in a slingshot and hit 2 targets. Simple, right? But nothing in Survivor's ever that simple. So Yellow actually won, and Blue came in second, sending Green to Tribal Council. But then Yellow also has a decision to make. They have to send somebody on this journey, quest, whatever. And they choose to send Shan and Liana. And that's interesting, because that puts Shan in an interesting position, because you have Ricard and Jeannie back at camp, and Shan's, off by herself, so Ricard and Jeannie could easily, be blindsiding Shan. So Lyanna mentions how she wants to work with Shan, and, they open up a little bit, and Shan says, like, how you need to at least trust one person out there, even though you can't really trust anybody, you have to at least trust one person. And Shan opens up about her mom. Shan spills the beans about her game plan. So she's really putting, everything into trusting Lyanna. And when they have to come to make a decision at the end, Shan makes a move saying that she wants Lyanna to have the advantage, and we're thinking, the advantage is an extra vote. So Shan decides to protect her vote while Lyanna decides to risk her vote. And it's good for Shan for two reasons. One, because of what I mentioned about gaining trust, but then also two, with 3 people left in her tribe, Shan can't afford to lose her vote. So, what's interesting about the advantage is that it's a brand new advantage, and it's not the extra vote. So what it is the knowledge is power advantage. And basically, Lyanna can ask any person one question. She can either ask, do you have an idol, or do you have an advantage? If they do have an idol or an advantage, they have to give it to her. If they say no, then the advantage becomes null and void. So the one thing that I'm wondering is that, can somebody lie and say, I don't have an idol, when in fact they do? Like, are they obligated to say yes? Like, how would they know that they have this advantage? You know what I mean? They could easily lie and say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So one would think that Lyanna could definitely use this against Xander, because Xander, she knows, has both an idol and an advantage. But now, what would be very, very cutthroat is if, come the merge, if she uses that against Shan, because Shan just revealed all this information to Lyanna. So who's to say Lyanna won't use that against Shan and use it to vote Shan now? That would be a very, very brilliant move. So you get back to Green, and Green, Ricard wants Jeannie to think that he wants Shan gone, but Ricard and Shan want to get rid of Jeannie, and Shan wants her advantage back from Ricard, because we see earlier in the episode, she gives Ricard her advantage as like a gesture of goodwill, but now she wants it back, and she's trying to say, well, as a gesture of goodwill, why won't you give it back to me? Why don't you just give it back to me this one time to show that I can trust you? And Ricard is not falling for it. He could see literally right through Shan's bull. He even brings up the fact that she literally said the same thing to JD about his advantage, and she used it to send JD home. So Ricard did not give Shan the advantage back. And say what you want about Ricard, but that was very, very smart and very brilliant of him not to give that back to her. At least for this tribal. Who's to say he won't give it back in the future? But right now it's in his possession, so he could do what he wants with it. He doesn't have to give it back to her. So at Tribal Council, there's a question of, with a merge coming so close, do you want to take loyalty to Tribal Council, or do you want to take somebody who's going to get along with everyone? And that kind of sounded like the same thing for me. That kind of sounded like contradictory, because if you have loyalty, doesn't that mean you could build relationships with everyone? I think more is like, who do you want to bring with you? Do you want to bring loyalty, or do you want to bring the strategist with you? And Ricard brings up, that he comes up with all these good ideas, and Shan's the one that kind of is the smooth talker and is able to be the closer, as he puts it. So, once again, the shot in the dark is not used, so our questions go completely unanswered about the shot in the dark. So, I guess we won't know till the merge comes, and Jeannie is the one that got sent home. And it's really fascinating because had Shan not convinced Jeannie to leave the idol unopened, she could have used that, and Shan or Ricard would have went home. So, say you want about Shan, but she's playing a pretty good game right now. Like how she's able to convince people to give her their advantages. Like that's just insane to me. Insane. Like I just can't believe that. You know what I mean? So next week it looks like it's going to be the merge, or is it? So everyone, Jeff says the famous phrase, "Everyone drop your buff." So everyone thinks it's the merge. And Jeff's like, or is it? So, is it the merge, or is there going to be a tribe swap? Because it's pretty close to when the merge would be if the game was in 26 days and if there weren't 2 less people than usual. So maybe they merge tribes, or maybe they merge it for like 1 or 2 episodes and then they go to the merge. I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see what happens next week. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's Survivor. If you want to check out Survivor, it is on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on CBS, or you can watch it live on Paramount Plus. Until next time, stay regal.